Welcome to PresidentCast. I am Regina Wilson, President of the Allegheny County Bar Association. This episode is on the importance of networking. I am joined by Bill Generett, the Senior Vice President of Civic Engagement and External Relations at Duquesne University. Bill is an ACBA member and an active member of our region's civic community. He currently serves or previously served on the Pittsburgh Foundation, Carnegie Museum, Center of Life, and the Shadyside Academy Board, in addition to the Business Advisory Council of the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam President. Glad to be here.
So, you are one of the best connectors and networkers I know, and one of my father's favorite sayings is, it is not always what you know, but who you know. And as an introvert, networking is a skill that I am consistently working with. So I wanted to discuss today with you on how networking has had an impact on your career and why it's so important.
Great. Well, one thing we have in common is that I'm an introvert that plays extrovert. Probably have a little more extroverted tendencies, but definitely have some introverted tendencies. So I also have to work hard to network, and I've had to do that throughout my career. But the reason why networking is so important is that, I'll just take, in my case, I've worked for 30 years, and I've only had to apply for one job.
Wow.
Right, I've only had to apply for one job. I've gotten other jobs because people, in my network have reached out to me and given me the opportunity. So that's why I'll say it's important, and I won't just say jobs. I also say the opportunity to provide board service. Right, I've gotten on some great boards and had the ability to work with some great people because of networks. And I like to say that I'm a strategic networker, right? A lot of people, when they think of networking, they think about going to an event and collecting as many business cards as they can and then reaching out to people, or getting on LinkedIn and just reaching out to people. If I reach out to 100 people, maybe one or two will respond to me. That's not how I network. Before I decide to network, I really work to determine what is the purpose, like what am I trying to get out of this, right? Because for me, if I'm just doing sort of blind networking, it's really exhausting, right? So kind of have to conserve that energy. you know what that means, right?
You're right. You can peep a little too much at times.
So for example, with my job, I'm over government affairs, corporate and foundation relations, community engagement, and so I could be out every night. I could go to 2, 3, 4 different events, and I really try to limit that. And I try to limit that by really being purposeful. And so the first question I ask is, what are you trying to get out of this? And so why would you go to that event? So somebody will say, hey, are you going to this event? Right? My first question is, well, to myself, why would I go to this event, and how does this fit into what I'm trying to do? So that's one. That's really important. I do my research before I go to an event. I want to know who's going to be there. Who do I want to talk to? And I laugh now today with LinkedIn and with social media. You can find out a lot about people, and I do that, right? So that I can figure out what's the best angle to approach them. The third thing, and I think this is really important, I always try to see what they want or how I can be helpful to them. And I learned this from a younger friend of mine who I feel is a master networker. He's an executive vice president at St. Vincent. He's a wonderful guy. But anytime he meets with somebody, right after he says, is there anything I can do for you? How can I be helpful to you? And I remember the first time he said that to me, it kind of threw me off, because so many people approach me asking me for things, but very few people say, well, how can I be helpful to you? And I think that's really important, because a lot of times the people that we're trying to meet, they're busy, right? And they don't necessarily have a lot of time just to help. Or I'd say in my case, there was a time where I might have 10, 15 people reach out to me and say, hey, can we meet for coffee? And, sometimes people get mad because I wouldn't get back to them. I told one person, I said, look, if I had coffee with everybody who wanted to have coffee with me, I would lose my job, right? So, not trying to be offensive, I'm just trying to like keep my job. So, always have to say, what's the purpose? And, when I do meet somebody and I get advice, I really take that advice before I try to follow up with them.
Okay.
I've taught some of my younger mentees, who go out with me. They'll say, hey, can we meet? I said, sure. So we meet and we talk, and I say, well, here are 5 things that I think you should do. Well, when they come with the follow-up email saying, hey, can we meet again? I say, well, where are we with the 5 things I recommended that you do? And they said, oh, well, I didn't do any of that. Oh, well, there's no need for a second meeting. Right? Because time is precious. And when you're an introvert that's playing extrovert often, you have to conserve your energy.
Okay. So one of the things you brought up was to reach out or to research an event and see who's attending. So for someone who might not be planning the event, how do you accomplish that?
So, for me, like I said, it goes back to what's the purpose, right? What's the purpose? So I generally am attending an event for a purpose, and it's not always a network. I mean, sometimes I'm just attending an event because I want to support somebody, or I'm attending an event for, it's work, it's something I have to do. But if it's an event where, I'm trying to network, I want to know what that event is. And okay, I find out what that event is, then sort of through my networks, I'll get an idea of who's going to be there. Another thing that, I do, and I don't do it as much, I used to be very active on social media. And, it's interesting, you can look like you're places and you're not, right? You can comment on somebody's been on Facebook and people think that you were there. I remember I had somebody say, oh my gosh, Bill, you're everywhere. How do you do it, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking, social media. Or, I'll go to an event and, don't stay there the whole time, right? I might stay for 15, 20, 30 minutes. What's the goal? What's the purpose of the event? And when I've achieved that goal, then, I'll leave, right? So it's really about being purposeful about the networking. And then really following through, doing what you're saying you're going to do. I mean, that question I told you at the end where you kind of say, well, how can I be helpful to you? Well, when somebody says, well, this is something you can do for me, do it, right? Go above and beyond the call of duty. Because, I found very few people that network actually say, well, how can I help you, right? And that's really important. That distinguishes you from other people. I go back to my friend who said that to me, and it actually stunned me, right? Because I was like, wow, I don't think anybody's asked me that. People are always saying, hey, can you do this for me, or can you help me do this? But not that follow-up, and I think that follow-up is really, really important.
Also, you mentioned that you don't always have to go to like a happy hour or a networking event to network. Where are some of the other places that you have found that you successfully network with people?
Sure. I've found LinkedIn to be a great way to network. I've also found Facebook, right, to be a great way to network, right? And I'd say LinkedIn, depending on subject matter that you might be talking about or a comment that you might make, somebody else might do a follow-up comment. And, I found that to be a good way to engage in dialogue and to meet people. Yeah.
So one last question for younger attorneys or people who are kind of putting their toe into the networking pool for the first time, starting networking, what's one tip that you would give them?
So I'd say the first tip is work hard, right? So you're going to build your first networks through work oftentimes, and be known or be seen as that person who works hard and is really good at their craft. Because if you do that, then people will notice, right? And then you'll get the opportunities from there to network. You know, you might have that lawyer say, hey, wow, you did a really good job over here. I'd like for you to maybe look at this, right? Or they would be really receptive to a conversation about, hey, how, is there any advice that you can give me? Often don't start with the easy sort of ask for advice, as opposed to, hey, can you do this for me, right? And fall up on that advice, but really look at your work environment or a volunteer opportunity as a way to do a really good job. And if you do that really good job, then you get the opportunity to have authentic relationships with people whereby you can really do some effective networking.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
I enjoyed this conversation.
This was great. Thank you for the opportunity.